Hello, YouTube. I haven't posted in a while for a couple reasons, but my main reason being this. As you can tell from the title of this video, I recently played the role of Ethel Toffelmier in Music Man Jr. It was my second role ever and first real role, since my role in Into the Woods didn't really count, blah blah blah. I'll get into that in another video if I didn't get into it already. Whatever, not the point of this video. This video is about my time as Ethel Toffelmier. So, without further ado, here's that. My audition was spontaneous, to say the least. One day in, I believe, October, my mother entered my room and said, "Sophia, do you want to audition for Music Man?" At that current moment in time, I had only listened to 2 songs from the Music Man, Wells Fargo Wagon and Shapoopy. However, I decided, why not? It's something to do. We don't really have that many junior theater auditions where I'm around, so why not? Turns out auditions weren't that far away. I don't remember if it was like a few days or a few weeks. I think it was a few days, actually. It might have been that weekend. So with this limited time, my audition song was Somewhere That's Green from Little Shop of Horrors, because I'd already used it for Newsies. So with that, I walked into that audition room, and I said, "My name is Sophia. I'm going to be auditioning using the song Somewhere That's Green from Little Shop of Horrors." I played the music on my phone, and then I sang the song. Good job. I walked out, and I waited. And a few days later, I received a call back for the Pick a Little Ladies. And then Saturday, later that week, my callback happened. They made me do things for a bunch of different Pick a Little Ladies. They made me do Maud, Ethel, Alma, Mrs. Squires, all for the pre-Pick a Little, Talk a Little scene. Which, if you don't know, it's that, Professor Hill, we're all agog, simply agog, on the qui-vive, I'm Ethel Toffelmier, that nonsense. I don't have my script. I do have my script, it's right there. I'm not getting it out, I don't care that much. So, that was my callback. I did very good in the role of Ethel. I had one line during that scene, "I'm Ethel Toffelmier," and I nailed it. I was absolutely certain it's either they don't cast me or they cast me as Ethel, and I was right. Later that week, a few weeks later, I don't know, my concept of time is really bad. Sure enough, Sophia Martin, Ethel Toffelmier. I freaking did it. I got cast as Ethel Toffelmier. I prayed to God. I said, "Jesus, please let me be Ethel. That is all I want at this current moment in time." And sure enough, the Lord hath answered my prayers. And thus, that was my audition. In early November, about probably 3 weeks after the cast list came out, rehearsals began. During our first rehearsal, we rehearsed Wells Fargo Wagon and I Was Stubborn. And I spoke to one cast member, which was the person who played the constable, because they were also disabled, and there were multiple disabled people in this cast, which is nice because that means that theater program isn't ableist, and I appreciate that. as I appreciate all non-ableist people. So, yeah, I spoke with... So that was automatic green flag right there. And I knew from that moment I was going to love being in this cast. There were many situations that happened at rehearsals. Like dance rehearsal. That was an experience. And I think it was my first... Somewhere between the first 5 times I went to rehearsal. They said, oh, we're going to do... Maybe it was the first time we met our choreographer. Somewhere around the beginning, we were told the Shipoopi is going to be very difficult. However, the dance that I found the most difficult was 76 trombones, because I'd never learned it properly. And another reason why I found Shipoopi to be relatively easy was because I had to be in the lead of Shipoopi, kind of. You could argue that I was in the lead, but also Harold and Marion were in the lead. Kind of depends. However, my character has a boyfriend, Marcellus Washburn, and he is the character who sings at the beginning of Shipoopi. So while he's doing his thing, he's all, now woman will kiss on the very first date is usually a hussy, whatever he's doing. I had to stand up in the front and act with him. And then we had to move to the side, in the front still, stage right? I'm bad at directions, I believe. Stage right, whatever this is. That way. Whatever that way is where we had to move. And I was still in the front. So I had to learn that dance very well. I had to make a few accommodations because we had to jump from this side to that side. And I can't jump on my left ankle because it's paralyzed. So I had to fix that. I ended up just cheating and jumping on my right foot both times and just pretending like I didn't. So yeah, with a few accommodations, the dances were very simple. As for music, Pick a Little, Talk a Little was significantly easier than I imagined. I laugh because it's pathetic. I should not have struggled that much with Pick a Little, Talk a Little. I found Pick a Little, Talk a Little reprise to be harder than the first Pick a Little, Talk a Little. Mainly because I had dialogue in the middle of singing. Basically, before Alma starts doing this rant to Marion about, oh, you dance like a fairy princess with a moonbeam as your floor, whatever. But before she does that, they sing Pick a Little, Talk a Little, that line twice. And what I had to do, during the first Pick a Little, Talk a Little, I had to sing. I had to go, pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little, cheep, 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 talk a lot, pick a little more. And then, while we were doing the second one, I had to run up to Marion and be like, Miss Peru, please join our Art Committee. You were so dear tonight dancing the Shipoopi with Professor Hill. I suck at that line. That's horrible, because I'm horrible at that line. My first line in the show, your Aunt Bertha's dead. Knock that out of the park. Miss Peru, please join our Art Committee. There you go. See, I can't do that. Something about the way you pronounce it is just not working with me. I made it work, good enough, but it was hard. So I feel like I have more to say. Oh yeah, 76 trombones. Best number in the entire show, music-wise. I love the dance for Shapoopy. It's like my favorite thing ever. I have the whole thing memorized, probably because the show only closed a week ago and I haven't had time to forget that. But yeah, 76 trombones is amazing. And my grandfather is a big Music Man fan, so he also enjoyed 76 trombones. Might I add, I'm going to get more into this later, however, I have to just take a quick minute to fangirl, I guess you could call it, about the boy who played Professor Harold Hill. He was amazing. He did so good in 76 trombones. He did really good in You Got Trouble, too. Because it's a very hard thing, because he has that whole rant about the pool table and parents having to get their kids together and whatever. He has that whole rant. He did really good with that. I will elaborate on that later. For now, we have to talk about blocking. Blocking is very difficult. Sometimes it's very difficult. I found the most difficult blocking to be in the first Pick a Little, Talk a Little, because there's this part where me, Alma, Eulalie, we all have to go in front of Professor Hill and say our lines, which was the name of a bunch of authors. We had Alma go Chaucer, she walked around, then I had to go Rabelais, and then Eulalie had to go Balzac, and it was really hard because we had parasols. I think I will put a little photo reel at the end of this video. You will see my parasol. The parasols were very difficult to handle with the blocking. I kept hitting people with them. I feel bad. If you were one of the cast members that I smacked with my parasol, I apologize, but it's very hard to handle a parasol with two hands, the way many of the other Pick-a-Littles demonstrated. I have one hand. That was really awkward to be like, okay, we gotta put it on this side, now we gotta put it on this side, Rabelais, Balzac, whatever, it's difficult. And really, I think that's all I have to say about my rehearsal experience, so here we go to our 3 shows. Opening night was amazing. My first line in the show, "Your Aunt Bertha's dead," got so many laughs. It was great. I felt like the Bill Murray, the Steve Martin, all those comedians. I just like, how do I explain this joke that I'm trying to make? That's just how funny I felt. Like all the best comedians ever were just channeled through me, and I made them laugh. I love that. That was great. I also made my aunt laugh during Shapoopy. Not exactly my intention, but okay. It was still kind of cool. It was still kind of funny to see her absolutely losing it in the audience because I was right in front of her during that dance. So that was weird, but funny. You know, and then my cousin was just sitting there, just like having no idea what was happening, and that was funny. To watch as like you have not been following the plot of this musical. You have no idea. You need to get it together. So yeah, that was great. I did miss one entrance, but it was fine because I eventually figured it out and didn't screw up for the rest of the show. And the shows following that. There isn't much to say about our second show. It was fun. I didn't screw anything up. Lots of people lost their hats during like bows and stuff. It was funny. I was not one of those people that lost my hat because I did have one, as I'm sure you've seen. If you were even paying attention to the pictures I put in the transitions, you'll notice I have a hat. I was one of the few people who didn't lose my hat, and
So, I guess you all suck at keeping your hats on. It's not, put your peak. If you were in my show, alright, if you were in my production of Music Man that I was also in, if we were co-stars and you lost your hat, that's on you, and I'm making fun of you for that right now. I still love my co-stars, but keep your freaking hats on. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Closing night. We got to talk about that now. That was great. That was probably my best show because my teachers came, my grandparents came. Everybody loved it. I even got flowers. They're dying now. But it was fun. You know, they enjoyed my show. We talked about it when I came back to school the following day. And the show was nice. The cast party was great. We took a lot of pictures and videos, and it was an amazing time. Also slightly depressing because, well, now it's over. And what are you going to do about that? However, I had a great time working with this amazing cast. Our shows were super fun. And, well, I guess that's all I have to say about the shows. So, now I think it's time that I take a few minutes to talk about my cast members. My co-stars were some of the most talented, amazing, and kindest people I have ever met. Honestly, there's a lot I have to say about each and every one of them. So to keep things simple, we're going to start with the main man, Professor Harold Hill. As I've mentioned previously, this was his first ever show, and he did amazingly. I had no idea that this was his first time ever performing like this until he mentioned it. He seems like the type of guy who's been doing theater since he could walk. That's how good he was. His acting, his singing, his dancing, it was all amazing. He was super nervous, but you couldn't even tell that's how good he was. That's just how amazing it was. And now, obviously, I've got to mention Marion because I've mentioned Professor Hill. She was good. She actually had been doing theater for the majority of her life. She's worked with that program since she was little, so she was basically, she's been preparing for a lead role like this for literally her whole life, and she did very good. Goodnight, My Someone, for at least like a regular soprano, is a very difficult song, and she did amazing. With not just that, she also did amazing with Till There Was You and the piano lesson and just everything. She was super good. Acting, singing, dancing, the whole thing. Now I obviously have to mention Winthrop. You can't have Music Man without Winthrop. He was great. This was his first show as well. He did great. His acting, amazing. Super funny. Especially, he has this one line where Amaryllis is flirting with him. And she, which is the girl who Marion is teaching piano to in the beginning of the play. So she invites him to her party, and he doesn't want to go because he's shy about his lisp and whatever. So he says no, and then Mrs. Prue is like, well, you know the little girl's name. And then he wasn't going to say it because obviously the lisp, the S at the end, but he does. And he says, no thank you, Amaryllis, and he bolts off stage, and it was so funny to watch that from the wings. It was definitely in the top 5 most comedic moments of Music Man Jr. That was great. He also did absolutely amazing during his solos in Wells Fargo Wagon in Gary, Indiana. They were great. I can't describe it. He's a very talented dancer. He danced the Shapoopy with Amaryllis. He was great in that. So was she. So, yeah, Winthrop, great. Amaryllis, great. Both super talented, super cool. My fellow Pick a Little ladies, obviously amazing. You know, they're my gang. We're all, as High School Musical would say, because I'm going to hopefully be auditioning for that soon. We're all in this together, and we were all great. Eulalie McKechnie Shin, absolutely hilarious. Loved her. Loved Mayor Shin too. The guy who played the kid who played Mayor Shin actually got a mullet a couple weeks before opening, and thank God they didn't make him wear a wig. He had a mullet and he had this like Abe Lincoln-esque hat. It was that was amazing. He had this like sash on him too, looking like a pageant queen. That was great. So yeah, Pick a Littles, the leads, Winthrop, they all did super good. The ensemble did amazing. With all the random lines they were assigned, their acting was great. All of them. Their singing, amazing. I am so glad that Music Man is a real ensemble show, so in that way, the ensemble could shine way brighter than it could when I was in Into the Woods. So yeah, everyone was super good, and I hope to see them when I audition for High School Musical with that same program in May. So that was great. All of my co-stars, absolutely amazing. Love them all. And if any of my co-stars, I didn't mention Marcellus. I did not mention Marcellus yet. I need to talk about him. He was great. Dancing the Shapoopy, singing the Shapoopy, all his lines, his comedic timing, his acting, everything, as I've mentioned with all the other actors, everything about that was good. The kid playing Marcellus actually played Kurt in a production of Sound of Music, an adult production of Sound of Music, so he's like a real actor. This is like an actual thing that he does kind of for a living, despite being 11 years old. But so yeah, that was really cool. And one of the Pick a Little ladies was in that same production with him. So I was amongst some real actors, some real genuine we do this for money type people. And that was amazing, and I just had to mention that. And now back to what I was saying before. If you were one of my co-stars and you're watching this video, hi, you were great. Bravo to all of you. For those of you who I've shared my YouTube channel with, which is probably going to be quite a few of you. Yeah, good job. And now I believe that it's time that we get to the photos. And that was most of the photos that I could find on the company's Facebook and that I didn't already use in my transitions, except for I think one of them. But before I go, I just wanted to mention Music Man. It was an unforgettable experience. In fact, it was so unforgettable that my mother has decided to start a tradition because of Music Man. This is my rehearsal bag. This is the bag that I used for Into the Woods, all of my auditions, Music Man. And we're getting Into the Woods pins. We're working on it, but for now, we just have Music Man. We have an ice cream, which is, symbolic of the song Ice Cream / Sincere, whatever. We have this trumpet. And then right in the middle, this is my favorite one, a briefcase with the name Professor Harold Hill on it. So in conclusion, Music Man was one of the best experiences of my life. I loved my co-stars. My director was amazing. The songs, the dances, the humor, everything about that experience was wonderful. And I thank you for listening to this 20-something minute video recounting one of the best times of my life.